time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, what is happening, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday episode of The Oil Stream. Dustin Nielsen and Tommy Gazzola with you, and nothing says sitting back in the evening after a pretty successful day of free agency for the Edmonton Oilers like a delicious Popeye's chicken sandwich coming soon to West Edmonton Mall. Tommy, what's up, buddy?
I couldn't agree more. First of all, let's start with that on a positive note. Secondly, I have no clue how you do these 4 a.m. wake-ups or 4:30. I'm 3 days in, and I feel like my body and my mind are totally separated and don't know what the hell's going on right now.
Yeah, just do that for 12 more years, and then you start to settle in a little bit. I think
that's it.
I think that's the key.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm supposed to be able to sleep in a little bit here at my parents' place, but like both my sisters are home, and there's 4 young kids in the house, and the bed that my wife and I got is just shit. So I can't even sleep well. Like, it's the worst bed in the house. We got the short end of the straw on this bed, and I'm not even getting good sleep, Tommy. It's pissing me off. I'm not gonna lie. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Well, look at you with a big smile.
Yeah, we've got lots to get to, though. There's no doubt about that. We'll maybe even take a little bit of a look at, what could still possibly happen here for the Edmonton Oilers. Probably not much, but we can discuss that a little bit as well. Boy, Tommy, I guess, I went to bed around 11 last night. Nothing was done on Kane at that point, I didn't think. And then I wake up this morning, and I'm thinking for you guys, I'm like, oh, shit, sweet show for the boys this morning. So let's just start there with Evander Kane. The more you thought about it, we discussed a little bit on the Oil Stream, like what's that market going to be like for him outside of Edmonton? And you speculated the Oilers, they want to start somewhere around 3 years, maybe $5 million per, and then you go from there. And I think that's probably what ended up happening here. They said, hey, we're willing to go 3 for $5. He goes, we're going to go check other things out, realizes that not a lot of teams have Connor McDavid that want to play him with them. So he comes back around to the Oilers and they get a deal done. I thought when you see some of the other contracts that rolled in today, I thought that Evander Kane, and I know, if he stays on track, it's great. You never know what happens. It hasn't ended anywhere else. But boy, if he doesn't get involved with anything over the next 4 years off the ice, buddy, that's a really nice deal for the Oilers.
Yes, it is. Good point with the caveat there where if he can keep things on the straight and narrow with the off-ice dressing room stuff, fantastic. This deal will look amazing. And, it didn't sound like it was going to happen. We were already saying our goodbyes to Evander Kane, basically. If you asked people in the Oilers camp yesterday morning, if a deal between them and Evander Kane would come to fruition by end of day or at all, they would have said not a chance. That's how it was described to me. And then I think Kane did test the market to see what the appetite for him was, what the price point might be, what kind of term teams would offer. And there must have been a bit of a dose of reality for him. And he circled back to the Oilers, and you heard through Drager and the insiders last night that conversations had picked up to the point where by close to midnight, they had a deal consummated. And I had gone to bed, I think around 11:15, 11:30, getting ready for the Smash Hit Nielsen show, keeping the seat warm for my boy Dusty. I was like, okay, I mean, it's not going to happen. And then I wake up and I'm like, what the hell? I'm seeing like emails and stuff from CTV. And I'm like, geez, okay, wow, that was a huge surprise. And I, texted a bunch of people in regard to that. And they're like, yeah, it ended up happening pretty quick because, they went from a very slim chance of that happening to making it a go. And that's the craziness of free agency. And maybe that dose of reality helped Evander Kane realize that he had a good thing with the Oilers and the offer was pretty sweet and close to what he wanted. And Dusty, he says the right things that, he wants to win a Stanley Cup. And I believe him. I do. But I also feel like when he was able to go and test the market, it wasn't necessarily what he had hoped it would be.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't getting $7 million on a 6 or 7 year term anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like the last thing I tweeted last night before I went to bed, I was just like, I don't know where the fit is somewhere else for Evander Kane. Like, he's a great fit in Edmonton. He's exactly what the Oilers need. It worked well for him here. The previous 10 seasons, Tommy, he passed 50 points once in his last 10 years. It's not like he was going out with a resume saying, hey, check it out. I scored 45 goals in San Jose, and I did this here, and I did this there. Bottom line is, the best he's ever looked, in my opinion, was when he was riding shotgun with Connor McDavid, and that's not out there for him anywhere else. So I think it worked out extremely well for the Edmonton Oilers. I think it's a very wise decision by Evander Kane to come back and slot in here. Eventually, maybe work his way into that top power. Man, if he plays on their top power play unit at some point, he could take a run at 45 goals if things continue to click well alongside Connor McDavid. So Evander Kane certainly worked out. Ken Holland stayed patient with him, and things just ended up working out in the end. Let's stay with another guy who was already here in Kulak, because you hear, okay, Kulak's going to go test the market as well. And there was some, it was thought that it was, $2.5 million in the range the Oilers are willing to go. He goes out, checks things out, comes back, gets a little bit of a bump up probably from what the original offer was. 4 years, 2.75. And I just tweeted it out there. I'll ask you the question, Tommy. I mean, when I see what some of these other defensemen got elsewhere today, and maybe not a lot of guys were getting the 4 years. Although Goodbranson got 4 years at $4 million, I'd much rather have Kulak on 4 years at 2.75. I think the Kulak deal might have been one of the best signings of the day around the league.
Hometown discount, perhaps, even though he got a nice healthy bump up in salary over what he was making before. It went quiet with Kulak yesterday. That was the update. It went quiet. That's a scary thing, because you think maybe he's saying, thanks, Edmonton, no thanks, I'm going to go apply my trade elsewhere. And again, maybe he just wanted to taste what free agency was like and how other teams and GMs felt about him. And he looks at Edmonton, the situation it's in, his fit there, comfortability, all that stuff, and goes, you know what, I'm going back there. They're willing to give me a nice raise. They're willing to give me term. That safety and security and knowing where you're going to be playing for the next X amount of years, that goes a long way for these guys, especially in careers that could be cut short at any moment. And generally the life of a pro hockey career doesn't last very long. I've heard that it's just a couple of years, if I remember the last time they did the calculation, but great deal for him. This guy has been good for the Oilers since he's come over from Montreal. I like this signing, and the fact that it got into the $2.75 million per year range, I don't think is very unexpected. I don't think anybody's crying foul about it, especially around Edmonton, because they can see the value that Brett Kulak brings to the blue line, stabilizes it. I think that's a nice way to describe his ability on the back end, and we'll see if the Oilers add to the blue line on the left side as well, because there's still probably a bit of a hole there. Broberg's going to get his looks. We know that. But you probably want a bit of a safety net with another veteran guy. Great signing. I like it. Now they can go to work on top of the fact that they got Kane and then the next guy that we're going to talk about.
Well, yeah, just quickly continue with the blue line for 1 second. I know Rashad was speculating that Slater Cuckoo going to play next year and to kind of maybe see him as their number 7 guy right now. Tommy, if you look at this blue line right now, last year it was Keith with Bouchard, and then Kulak settled in with Barry when it was all said and done. Is Kulak the guy with Bouchard this year, and then you put a younger guy like Broberg with Barry? Is that the way you would imagine it? Because I know Ken Holland said today, they imagine Kulak being in that second pairing, and that's probably what they sold him on when he decided to come back.
Yeah, sure. Pencil it in.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Pencil it in. As we've witnessed many a time, specifically last season for most recent recency bias, if you will. Pencil it in, but we know it's going to change. You know that in time things change and guys find a rhythm with one another mid-season, but pencil it in. If that's how they're foreseeing things for now, sure, okay. We might get 4 games into the preseason and it's not working, and they try something else, and a couple of guys find that chemistry and rhythm, but that's fine. If that's what it takes to get Kulak back into the fold and the team's happy with putting him in that 2 slot on the back end, great. So many things can change, so many moving parts. The fact that you bring up Slater Cuckoo or Shogger did surprises me. He does have that extra year left on his deal. He had to, walk away from the organization, not played in Bakersfield for the latter part of the season, personal reasons. Everybody needs their time to do their things. Who knows what's going on in their lives? That surprises me as well. So we'll see how it all goes down when we get to training camp. But Dusty, I wouldn't be surprised.
I've got come here, Marshall. Come here.
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
on the oil stream right now with Tommy. Can you say hi?
Hi, Tommy.
Now you go upstairs.
Hey,
and tell everybody to
Marshall.
leave me
What's
alone
going
for
on, big
10 more
boy?
minutes, okay? Okay. Tell Papa to text me. Marshall just sort of barged in. Sorry.
I love it. No, all good. All
So anyway,
good,
we'll see what happens.
anyway.
I could see another veteran guy getting maybe a PTO and see how he does. Comes in here and shapes up with the younger guys. You've mentioned some of those younger guys beyond Broberg that they think might be ready for an opportunity here. So I like the blue line. I think that the return of Kulak was big. And I think Kulak-Bouchard could be a pretty decent pairing if you give them some time to sort of gel together. I think that'd be something very interesting to see how it works with Barrie. They will all be playing in front of Jack Campbell, which was the worst kept secret in all of free agency. I mean, we laid it out on Saturday that it was essentially a done deal, Tommy.
Do you have that feather to put in our collective cap here on the oil stream? Because I do believe we were right there. Right there. Let's, a little dust off our shoulders. I'm just kidding. I'm saying that in jest, but you're right. Worst kept secret. They get their guy. They pay the price. Let's see where it goes, Dusty. I mean, I think people are pretty pumped up about it.
Yeah, let's see where does it go? Like they get 5 years of Jack Campbell. You got Stuart Skinner. All of a sudden, the Oilers kind of have this guy who's been a number one right now, and the guy who they think could be the guy in the future. We've been talking about this for 3 years, except they've been sticking with Smith and Koskinen and things like that. I thought there was a really good debate on that TSN panel today, and then we were talking about, and I brought it up with, I guess it was on Two Guys and a Goalie earlier in the week, on the Leafs, being in win now mode as well, and basically paying Murray a slightly less than Campbell's going to get, and moving away from Jack Campbell. The Oilers scoop him up. I don't know if there's some sort of hesitancy here. I love the fact that Hyman is just like, this is our guy. Like, he's obviously stoked to have his good buddy in town here with the Edmonton Oilers. I think it's a really good move. Part of me is just like, why didn't the Leafs want to keep him around? Like, I don't know what I'm missing, I guess. I'm not saying there's something wrong. I just don't know what I'm missing right now.
The Leafs turned him into a starting goalie in the NHL, and he took over from Freddie Anderson, who they traded away, and I don't know what Toronto's strategy is. Thankfully, we don't cover them because I think that would be a 365-day headache, to be honest with you. But Toronto's loss is Edmonton's gain. And Edmonton has a guy that's emerging that could potentially take over the reins. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 years. Maybe it's in 3 years. Maybe it isn't. If not, if Stuart Skinner doesn't continue to evolve and ascend, then they have Campbell and they can look towards the future and 3-4 years down the road, try to find their next guy. But now Edmonton has a goalie. Now we're not going into a season going, what the hell is going to happen in net? Huge question mark. Third straight year, fourth straight year. That's gone right now. You know what they've got, and it's on the up and up. So I think this brings some assurances to the Oilers fan base now. There's an expectation. They don't look at the goaltending and go, ugh, what's going to happen on a night-to-night basis? Ugh, how many first shot goals are going to go in? Ugh, how many stinkers?
There'll be the odd game that it's not good, but you're right, Tommy. Like this Oilers team, even when you look at what happened in the playoffs, they outscored a lot of their goaltending issues, right? They're the only team ever to lose 3 playoff games when they scored 5 goals or 6 goals or whatever it was. Like, you don't need Jack Campbell to come in here and win a Vezina. You need Jack Campbell to come into Edmonton and provide straight-up consistency. That's it. That's all you need.
Make the first save of the game and don't let in a stinker every second night. I think you've got a recipe for success with the group in front of you. Simple.
I don't think that's asking for a lot. I think Jack Campbell should be able to provide them with that, and he just seems like a pretty nice guy. So looking forward to having him join the community here in Edmonton. I think that'll be a nice boost to everybody. And look, I'll be honest, from a Nielsen Show perspective, loving what I can do with Soup and Campbell and the first name Jack as far as bits and songs go. So Soup, there it is. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to go over very well. Quick tease of what might be coming down the pipeline. We'll get to what's next in a second. Yeah.
Can I throw one thing in there? Why aren't you a songwriter or a producer of some sort in the music biz?
I'm too busy. let's just say that. All right, before we get to what's next here, Tommy.
Yeah.
Overall, and basically, Ken Holland today kept Kane, kept Kulak, brought in a number 1 goalie.
Yeah.
and I think he did it. Kane, I laid it out earlier on Twitter today. McDavid is a value contract at what he makes. Draisaitl's a value contract at what he makes. I personally think Hyman's a value contract at what he brings to this team. And Evander Kane, certainly, if he scores 35 goals next year, he's a value contract. I think you could probably put Kulak maybe in that mix when you saw what some other defensemen got out there on the market today as well. And, Campbell's the number one goalie. You pay him $5 million. So how do we summarize Ken Holland's work today, Tommy? What do you think? How would you view this?
Well, very good is how I would describe it. Satisfying if you're an Oiler fan. Today is one of the few days, prominent days on the NHL calendar where I saw a lot of positivity from the fans of this franchise. There's been a lot of ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster ride for over a decade, almost 15 years. And these types of days for Oil Country are ones that don't come very often, and well-deserved, long-awaited. And Oil Country can sigh a breath of fresh air and a sigh of relief, all that good stuff, because this team on paper is pretty damn good. It's riding a little bit of a wave of momentum after going to the third round. And I think a lot of boxes have been checked by Ken Holland. And he said it. It's win now mode. He's going for it. This team's set up pretty nice. It's up to the guys in that room to keep everything on track and make it happen.
They've got some RFAs that they clearly have to take care of. McLeod's not going to cost them much. Yamamoto will be interesting because it wasn't a smooth negotiation last year to get him done. And then whoever knows what happens here with Jesse Puljujärvi. Connor Brown, they were trying to get their hands on. He ends up going to Washington for a second rounder in 2024. Of course, they'd already moved their third rounder in 2024, and they'd moved their second in 2025. So maybe they didn't want to end up not having a second and a third, which is why they were trying to acquire some other picks that they could flip for Connor Brown. But Tommy, what else are you hearing? What else are you expecting Ken Holland to do? I know Dreger said that, they're far from done right now, which could mean, trying to weasel a trade out here or there. But what do you think else is still on to the do list here?
That's the first off, good scoop on the flipping to get a pick for Connor Brown, and that it didn't materialize ultimately.
But they were in it. Like, they wanted
they were
him,
in
right?
it. They were. And you had the little tidbit of information. Bobby Margarita was all over it, Dregs and those guys. So that would have been a good pickup. Does this mean Jesse Puljujärvi stays? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. And if the rumblings from the big dog insiders are saying, no, he's far from over with his work this offseason, depth forwards, maybe making a tweak or two there. And then I think insurance policy on the back end, a veteran guy. It could be a PTO, but I think, Dusty, if you sign a guy for relatively cheap, then it should be a good get. I'll say this about Yamamoto. My understanding is it shouldn't be as tough of a negotiation and as frustrating of a negotiation as it was the last time around. Hopefully that does play out that way, and the player and the organization come to a nice agreement on something that's, mutually beneficial. You're right about McLeod. I don't think he can demand an arm and a leg.
I saw some leverage. Yeah.
No, and there were some people like earlier in the year around the playoffs were like, this guy's gonna get $5 million a year, and it's
like a 1.3 deal coming.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like that,
I don't know why you pay him anymore. He has literally no negotiating power. Yeah,
he has not done anything outside of establish. He's an everyday player, which is great.
Which is huge.
Steps in
That's
the right
very
direction.
big for him and the team. You're right. Yeah,
building it up, baby steps, one thing at a time, getting there. You like to see it. That's development, all that good stuff. So I think, another forward or two, and then probably a defenseman as a bit of an insurance policy as well. So the heavy lifting is done, Dusty. There's a lot of satisfaction, I think, in and around our community when it comes to this team. And then it's just filling out the small holes left, if you will, to sum it all up.
Yeah, it's interesting with Puljujärvi. Like, as their roster is constructed right now, it's better with him on it. Like, because they didn't bring in a replacement on the right side.
Yeah.
So I'll be fascinated to see what ends up happening here. Like, I can see why they wouldn't want to move him for picks, because they need a player to play in that spot, essentially on the right side in their top nine.
Yeah.
So
and this doesn't mean that a trade isn't happening.
They're just gonna be
it's
patient
a tough
about
situation.
It, right?
Patience is a virtue, and then on top of that, if he lets go of the idea that he's a top 6 player on this team and says, you know what, I'm going to work towards being a better player, consistency day to day, puck handling, all the developmental things that he could work on in the offseason.
Yeah.
If his mind changes, then, I think Edmonton would embrace him and say, all right, start here and work your way up.
Well, because I would think, like, I know a lot of people look at it and go, like, Puljujarvi wants to play in the top 6. And the Oilers right now might not view him like that. But I would be very stunned if the Oilers just said, you're never playing in the top 6 here again. You know what I mean? Because
that's a terrible attitude to have.
Yeah, like right now, essentially you're playing Hyman over on the right side because you're going to have Kane and Nuge on the left side unless you play the other big boys together. And then you got Yamamoto there. And if you want to play Nuge on the third line and slide Hyman back over to the left, there's a top 6 spot there on the right side that there's no better options right now. So, I don't know, man. I still think there's a window there where I highly doubt it. But like from a roster construction perspective, Puljujarvi's spot, I guess, is still on this roster as opposed to having already been replaced by a Connor Brown or somebody else that they got via trade. So,
lastly on that, Dusty, if another team that likes Puljujarvi, and it sounds like there's just a handful of them, didn't get a player that they maybe wanted instead of Puljujarvi, they could circle back to the Oilers and say, all right, we'll give you this for this. Yeah. And that could come to fruition as well. This is something that's going to take some time.
Yeah, not going to be done. I know when I was on with Low Tide and JMO today, they were just essentially like, does it happen today? I said, man, we've been thinking could possibly happen for the last 2 days, 3 days. So
have
to see what happens on that front. Guys, I can't believe they lost on Connor Brown. Yeah, I thought, they just obviously didn't want to give up the pick capital. And on top of that, I think what was probably going on here is they were trying to move Puljujarvi or Fogle for a pick and then be able to flip the pick for Brown, and they just couldn't get that done, right? Like
logically, that's the best way to rationalize it, I think. That's probably logically what happened.
Yeah, so they could have given up their second in 2024, I guess, but then they don't have a second or a third in 2024, and you don't want to get that far down the road at that point. Fun day, though. I think a really good day for Ken Holland, and he needed it. Kenny Holland needed this day. Like I hope Kenny Holland's on the golf course right now, crushing some beers and having a good time, buddy, because I thought he did some pretty fine work today, bringing back Kulak and Kane and doing it for less than $8 million. I think that's some solid work.
Yeah, a couple of brewskis on the course, or maybe a high-end red wine. You know those guys. They like the red.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah. Well, today they deserve it. We'll see what happens the rest of the way. Of course, we'll have another episode of the Oil Stream on a Friday, and lots to discuss. Who knows? Maybe something else has happened by then, and if not, we'll get into the likes of Pickard, and McKegg. We'll get into that discussion on Friday's episode of the Oil Stream. Are you ready for that, Tommy?
No, I'm not, quite frankly.
Thank you to everybody for watching live. Remember, you can always watch on YouTube. Just search the Oil Stream or Nielsen Media on YouTube. And if you have been watching live, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Every episode available there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Play. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can find the Oil Stream. We'll be back with more content on Friday. Tommy, you look after the show tomorrow, eh, buddy?
I will do my best, my friend. I love working with Lieutenant Eric and the crew, but the mornings are killing me. Like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell button. Gosh darn it, we'd appreciate it.
Talk to you Friday.